Shalom. I'm Nama Rue. This is my husband, David Rue. And we recently spoke about some stories of contemporary, recent special rabbis who gave a blessing for fertility along with a taste of etrog. Is that right?
With Mordechai Eliyahu, yes. That is right.
Are there more stories, similar stories of women being remembered by God, which is, I think, the way that we tend to refer to this problem?
There are many stories. I only know a few of them. It was Rav Charlap, who was a very close Talmid of Rav Kook, the first Rav Kook, and the second Rosh Yeshiva of Merkaz Rav, was, although he was a Litvish Rav in many ways, in training and so on, in other ways he conducted himself like a Hasidic Rebbe, sort of the way Rav Kook did. That one of the great things about Rav Kook and his followers is that he was a combination of both a Litvish Rav and Rosh Yeshiva and the Hasidic Rebbe at the same time. So Rav Charlap was known that women would go to him to get, or his wife, to get the candied esrog that he said the Brachah on, small pieces of it, for an easy pregnancy and delivery, for a segula, for a charm, so to speak. It's not a good English translation. I don't have a good English translation. To become pregnant. It was well known, and I've seen many places where it's written about that way, but I don't know of any specific stories about specific women that were helped or not, and so on. However, there are a number of well-known stories about his brachot to people. The most famous...
Brachot meaning his blessing.
The most famous is when Kfar HaRoeh was founded immediately after Rav Kook's death. They were planning on building a settlement there anyway, but immediately after Rav Kook's Petira in 1935, this village was named in honor of Rav Kook when it was founded. And Rav Charlap felt that Roshal Yisraeli, as a Talmid of Rav Kook, should be the first Rav of the village. And he went there to lobby that they should accept Rav Yisraeli as the Rav. In those days, to get from one place to another isn't like today, a trip of 45 minutes. It was many hours, and you couldn't go there and back in one day. He went, he talked to this, he stayed overnight. And this next day, as he was preparing to leave, the man of the house was helping him, escorting him, and he said, "Where's your wife?" And he said, "Well, she's in the chicken coop working." He says, I have to give her a bracha. He had seen that there were no children in the house. And so he gave a bracha that she would have a child within the year. And his efforts to have Rav Yisraeli appointed as the Rav were successful. Rav Yisraeli was single at the time. And Rav Charlap told him to go back to Poland to find a shidduch. The possibility of finding a shidduch in those days in Poland was much, much better than it was in Eretz Yisrael.
Shidduch meaning a match, a spouse.
And this shows you how much times have changed. And he returned, he was married, and there was going to be the installation, and Rav Charlap was going to the installation to be the keynote speaker. And there was a competition in Kfar HaRoeh among the childless families over who would have the right to have Rav Charlap stay as their guest. And one particular family succeeded, and Rav Charlap stayed with them, and they had been married for a while without children. And before he left, he gave the wife a bracha that within the year she should have a daughter. And she did. And after that, she had 3 more daughters. And the father would always tell this story, constantly tell this story. Many years later, on Rav Charlap's first yard site, it wasn't planned this way, it just happened that the engagement party for the oldest daughter was being held.
Yard site is the first year after his death, the anniversary of his death.
And, well, the anniversary of the burial. All subsequent yard sites are anniversary of the death. First yard site is anniversary of the burial if they're on a different date. So on the first yard site, the oldest daughter got engaged to someone named Yaakov Ariel, the future of Yaakov Ariel, one of the leading rabbis in Israel today. And
today, like today?
Today, like today, yes. The father continued to tell this story constantly, and his daughter never told the story until after he passed away, at which time Rabbanit Ariel began to tell the story also to continue its tradition.
So after her father passed away, so she began to tell a story of her own conception, which was related to a blessing from the Tzadik.
Yes. That's one of the stories about Rav Charlap. He was a very, very interesting person. A more examination of his personality would be perhaps worthwhile in another series of stories.
Well, if he was a Tzadik, what is a Tzadik and how was he a Tzadik?
A Tzadik is an untranslatable word. It is improperly translated as someone is righteous, but it's not. It is someone that is devoted to God to such a degree that they have converted all of their energies into avodas Hashem, into divine worship. It is someone that is multiply talented, and I think part of it has to be that there are different aspects of divine worship. There's study, there's prayer, there's acts of chesed, acts of kindness, there's meticulousness in performing mitzvos, and all of them grow together. One of them can hold back the development of another. A tzaddik is someone who has brought all of these together to a very high level, which gives him a certain spiritual clarity that enables him to see the spiritual world perhaps as almost as clearly as we see the physical world. And therefore, their brachos have very great effect. As the Gemara says, Tzadik goes over HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim. The Tzadik decrees, and the Holy One, blessed be He, fulfills that decree.
Amen.